The 2017 inauguration was the first U.S. presidential inauguration to be live tweeted, with the official feed reaching 6.8 million unique viewers. We have always understood that when times change, so must we, that fidelity to our founding principles requires new responses to new challenges, that preserving our individual freedoms ultimately requires collective action. Barack Obama, 21st January 2013. The first time Chief Justice John Roberts administered the oath of office to Barack Obama, both deviated from the wording of the oath, thus leading the two to conduct a second oath ceremony in the map room of the White House on January 21, 2009. The survival of liberty in our land increasingly depends on the success of liberty in other lands. The best hope for peace in our world is the expansion of freedom in all the world. George W. Bush, 20th January 2005. Though George W. Bush planned to use the same Bible that Washington had used in 1789 in the inaugural ceremonies in 2001, which his father had also used in 1989, a family Bible was substituted due to inclement weather in order to preserve the Washington Inauguration Bible. The 1997 inauguration was the first time since it became a federal holiday that Martin Luther King Jr. Day fell on Inauguration Day. To mark the occasion, Bill Clinton spoke of Dr. King's legacy and the civil rights movement in his speech. No president, no Congress, no government can undertake this mission alone. My fellow Americans, you too must play your part in our renewal. In serving, we recognize a simple but powerful truth. We need each other, and we must care for one another. Bill Clinton, 20th January, 1993. Some see leadership as high drama and the sound of trumpets calling, and sometimes it is that. But I see history as a book with many pages, and each day we fill a page with acts of hopefulness and meaning. George H.W. Bush, 20th January, 1989. With January 20th falling on a Sunday in 1985, Ronald Reagan was sworn in during a private ceremony at the White House, with public ceremonies the next day. However, as it was the coldest inauguration on record, the public ceremony was moved into the Capitol Rotunda. In a sharp contrast to 1985, Ronald Reagan's first inauguration in 1981 was the warmest to date on record. It was also the first to be held on the west front of the U.S. Capitol, where it has remained ever since, except for 1985. During the inaugural parade, Jimmy Carter signaled the ILY sign to a group of deaf parade watchers, thus popularizing a sign that had previously only been used in a community in the Midwest that Carter had interacted with on the campaign trail. There is no way we can go forward except together, and no way anybody can win except by serving the people's urgent needs. We cannot stand still or slip backwards. We must go forward now together. Gerald Ford, 9th of August, 1974. The second inaugural of Richard Nixon marked the first inauguration ceremony in which Warren Burger administered the oath to the president as Chief Justice. Including the extraordinary one the next year, Chief Justice Burger would participate in 5 inaugurations. With his first inauguration in 1969, Richard Nixon became the first non-incumbent vice president to be inaugurated as president, as he had previously served as vice president under Dwight Eisenhower. During the 1965 inauguration, First Lady Lady Bird Johnson became the first spouse to hold the Bible as the president was being sworn in. The 1961 inauguration was the first to have a poem read as part of the ceremonies. Robert Frost had composed Dedication to be a preface, but when he was unable to read his papers due to glare, he went into a recitation of the gift outright from memory. For one truth must rule all we think and all we do. No people can live to itself alone. The unity of all who dwell in freedom is their only sure defense. Dwight Eisenhower, 21st of January, 1957. The Joint Congressional Committee on Inaugural Ceremonies held a luncheon at the U.S. Senate restaurant in honor of Dwight Eisenhower and his VP following the 1953 inauguration ceremony. This has since become an inaugural tradition. The inauguration of Harry Truman in 1949 was the first to be televised, airing live on all American networks. It was also broadcast on Voice of America, with the proceedings translated into various languages, including German and Russian. As it was conducted in the midst of World War II, the 1945 inauguration occurred on the south portico of the White House with little fanfare, and the traditional inauguration parade was canceled due to gas rationing and a lumber shortage. Following the 1941 inauguration, Franklin Roosevelt and First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt hosted 1,200 guests at the White House for a buffet luncheon to mark the occasion. To date, FDR is the only U.S. president to be elected to more than 2 terms of office. To maintain a democracy of effort requires a vast amount of patience in dealing with differing methods, a vast amount of humility. But out of the confusion of many voices rises an understanding of dominant public need. Franklin D. Roosevelt, 20th January, 1937. With the 1933 inauguration, Franklin Roosevelt and incoming First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt began the tradition of the soon-to-be inaugurated president participating in morning worship service prior to the ceremony, with the 2 attending a service at St. John's Church. The 1929 inaugural was the first to be recorded by talking newsreel, which later helped to dispel the false rumor that Herbert Hoover used the word affirm rather than swear while taking the oath of office. The 1925 inauguration was the first time that a former president, Chief Justice William H. Taft, administered the oath of office to another president, Calvin Coolidge. Taft had been nominated as Chief Justice by Warren Harding. The 1921 inauguration was the first in which an automobile was used to transport the outgoing president, Woodrow Wilson, and incoming president, Warren Harding, to the U.S. Capitol for the inauguration ceremony. Edith Wilson became the first Lady to accompany her husband to and from the U.S. Capitol for the ceremony in the 1917 inauguration of Woodrow Wilson to his second term. It was also the first time women participated in the inaugural parade. The 1913 inauguration marked the first time since 1853 that the inaugural ball was canceled. Incoming President Woodrow Wilson felt that it was inappropriate for such a solemn occasion. The 1909 inauguration took place in the midst of a blizzard. 10 inches of snow fell on D.C. before it ended shortly after noon, and many city streets were impassable. The inauguration of William Howard Taft took place in the Senate chamber of the U.S. Capitol. Much has been given us, and much will rightfully be expected from us. We have duties to others and duties to ourselves, and we can shirk neither. Theodore Roosevelt, 4th of March, 1905. The 1901 inauguration marked the first time that the U.S. House worked in conjunction with the U.S. Senate on preparations for the inaugural, forming the Joint Congressional Committee on Inaugural Ceremonies, a committee formed every 4 years since.